What's up, guys? Matty here, mixandmastermysong.com. Today we're checking out a new plugin from my buddies over at Tone Projects. If you haven't heard of them, they make one of my favorite compressors called the Unisum. It's a mastering grade compressor. You should definitely go check that out. However, in today's video, we are checking out their new plugin called Kelvin. The plugin is a multi-band saturator, I guess you could say. It has 3 different bands that you can adjust what you're pushing into as far as the saturation. So if you want to push more low-end saturation, you can do that. Or if you just want to focus on the mids, you can push saturation that way too. It also has a host of different saturation emulations that you can pick from and push how much you want to drive. I really dig this plugin. I've been using it for about a week and it's been finding its way into all my mixes, so that's always a good sign. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe. Let's go. All right, guys, so here is the plugin. We'll go over it and then get into some sound examples after that. It's basically a 2-stage saturator. So you have stage 1 and stage 2. This is stage 1, and you pick the different saturation types, which we'll check out in a second here. But then it goes into stage 2. And so as you gain this up, it drives it into stage 2, right? Whereas stage 2 is just drive, where it just drives the gain of stage 2 only, okay? Now, both of these are supposed to compensate volume-wise. It does a fairly good job, but not always 100%. So you always want to make sure, you're compensating for loudness and not just thinking it sounds better that way. But that's the way these two work. Now, each of them have their own saturation type. So you have all these different ones. I'm not going to sit here and read them to you, but there's some great ones. Boutique I've been using a lot. I love second order harmonics, and so you can just get second order harmonics, which is great. Or if you want to get aggressive, want something more edgy, you can just do third order harmonics. Purple is really good. Dark Iron is really good. All these sound awesome, and you can go through them. We'll listen to a couple of them, but if you want to download the plugin and check it out, you can really get into these. So you can pick one or pick two. And what's cool too is you can also right click on these, right? Let me take this question mark off. You can right click on these and it will just switch to clean. So if you want to either A, B, or what I do sometimes, I just want one stage. I'll just click this one clean and keep this one to whatever saturation I'm using, or vice versa. You can switch them this way too, go back and forth, and hear how it's driving in different ways. So pretty cool how versatile that is. And having 2 different stages, you can come up with a lot of different flavors just with this alone. So then you move into this, what they call the shaping stage, right? So you have pre and post. These are kind of, EQ boosts. And then you have different bands here: low shelf, bell high Q, bell wide, EQ P low, and then pre-post high pass, right? Now, what's cool about this is the pre actually doesn't really change the sound. It will change the sound, but what it's doing is this is how much you're boosting into the saturation, right? So if we want mostly mid saturation and we don't want low end saturation or high end saturation, we would do something like this. Now, turning this down 20 dB isn't going to affect the low end sound at all. It's just going to affect how much saturation is being applied to the low end. So you'll still have the same signal you might have started with, and I'll show you once we get into the drums, but you're only boosting saturation on the mids, which is really cool to be able to have. FabFilter Saturn kind of does this, but for me, I always have a hard time wrapping my head around Saturn, even though I use it a lot, but I usually just use it in one band. I like the multi-band, the way they're doing it here, better. It just, for some reason, maybe because I'm not seeing all the signals and I'm just listening with a single fader, it makes it a little more clear for me. I'm a slow learner though, so your mileage may vary. Down here, you can change the frequency as to where it's boosting, and I'm sure there's some sort of frequency connection between these two, but you can kind of push more if you want to push more around 700 hertz or 2500 hertz. You can go that way. Okay, the post is to compensate for saturation. So that actually is gain. So if you want like a Pultec curve or something, and I believe there's a preset in there kind of like that, and maybe no saturation, you could do this, right? Just boost the high and the lows and turn both clean. And then that's actually just treating it as an EQ. So another way you could use it if you want to use it just as EQ. Not sure why you would, but it's available. Okay, over to the left side. Let's go left and then we'll go to this output. It also has a spread feature, which is kind of cool, and it enables a harmonic spread feature, which it creates stereo width by introducing subtle variances in the harmonics generated on left and right channels. That's from the manual, if you didn't know I was reading. So it's got 2 phases. It's got this one and this one, which is a little bit wider. Really cool. I'll show you, I'm using it on a hi-hat in here, and it does just give a little more dimension, which is cool to be able to have. Now, the defuzz is also pretty interesting. It reduces the saturation of the mid and high frequencies on and cleans up saturation artifacts, okay? So, but there's 2 available settings, this one and this one. This one here only affects the high frequencies, whereas this one does the highs and the mids. So, you know, sometimes when you're using a saturation plugin, it starts sounding good, but it gets fuzzy, as this defuzz does. This will help clean that up a bit, and it's a really cool feature to have in this plugin. Lastly, the output. So the output's cool too. I know you'd say, well, how could it be cool? It's just the output. Well, you have an output trim and then a main output here. So you're wondering why you have both. Well, the reason is it has a clip feature, soft clipping. And that's dope because sometimes when you're hitting, especially drum signals, I tend to clip my drums a bit sometimes when they're too loud for the master. So this is cool to have this in here. Now, if you're hitting it too hard and it's clipping too much, you might want to turn it down so it's not hitting the clipper so hard. So you could just turn this down, but then your overall gain turns down. So what you can do is shift click, and if you look at my output trim and then my output down here, as they are going in tandem, so I can cut it down to how much it's clipping, but bring the overall output back up. So cool how they have those locked together. And then lastly, the best feature in the world, a mix knob. And it seems like everybody's starting to put these on their plugins finally, which is awesome. But especially for something like this, it's a huge need and it's great to have. Okay, enough of me talking. Let's get into this and check it out. This is just a beat I made since YouTube won't allow me to use clients' music anymore. So let's check it out and we'll start just, messing around with this thing. Okay, so you guys can hear how it's doing different things by switching around. It definitely works. Let's just dial this down though and make things a little more straightforward so we can start hearing how to shape this thing. So let's go to that and let's just use purple, and we'll just use 1 stage of saturation. I'm gonna drive it a bit so it's a little bit crunchy, and then we'll start shaping it a bit and you can hear how it will change the sound. Okay, so now we just got a little bit of saturation on, but let's say we don't want it in the low end. So let's turn this pre down all the way here and take a listen. So that sounds cool. It keeps our low end intact, but gives a little saturation in the mids and the top to have them push out of the mix a little bit more. So then let's say we don't want the top, but we just want to focus on the mids here. Check this out. So I don't know if you noticed what I did at the end there. I just boosted the post. So all I'm doing there is boosting the low end of the kick, the kick. This is on the drum bus, so the low end, but just boosting mid saturation. So as you can see by just doing these moves, right? Maybe if we want to just boost the high end to get the hi-hats there, the high end of the snare there. by doing this, I just want to show you all the different sounds you can get. And we're just using one stage of saturation here, but you can get a bunch of different sounds. But what I like about this plugin is that it's not that you can get a bunch of different sounds and like there's so much you can do. You can do this really quickly. Like that's what I like about the plugin, is it's super intuitive on being able to get to a sound quickly. You know what I mean? So if we want more kick, boom, we get a little more low end. If we want more low end saturation, we can boost that way. So the shaping tool to me is where the money is in this plugin. The saturation sounds great, but being able to shape things in such a quick and easy way is a game changer for me. Okay, so let's just check this out. I'm gonna bypass this for now on these drums. I'm gonna play you this whole mix, and then I'm just gonna show you what I'm doing on a couple different, couple of the other sounds in this song. So this is just that little sample I got going on. This I used actually a preset. It's called Keys Subtle Vibe. Now, if you check it out, this thing's got a ton of presets that are really good and great starting points. I mean, if you just look, there's tons and tons and tons. So a really great way to get started, and it's how I've found some of the sounds I like most about this, starting with a preset and then dialing it in the way you want. But check this out. This has a bit of the spread on it, and it's just, you know, just boosting a bit of saturation into it. And let's check it out and so you can hear it. Pretty subtle, but it just lifts everything up a bit, which is why I love harmonic saturation, because it can lift up a signal without changing the overhaul to tone too much. Now, say we wanted a little bit more mids in here. Let's boost that up. So that changed the tone quite a bit, right? So just those small boosts. Now, this is great if you're in the middle of a mix and you're like, the music's just not cutting enough. If you have this on and you just hit it on the subtle vibes, right? Go in, quickly boost this mids a bit, and it will just push that up a little bit more. So cool. Now, let's check it out on this hi-hat really quick, and then we should be about done. This is like a percussion loop. So for this, I use these two different saturation stages, and now I'm only boosting saturation in the high end and then boosting a little bit of high end frequency as well. And then I have the wide on stunt, as I like to call it. So check this out with and without. You can hear that hi-hat loop just kind of come alive. It's really, really cool. So that's about it for the plugin. You can use this on your mastering. I've used this on mastering. There's a lot of cool mastering presets to start with. This one's cool, blue and black. Reminds me of the Black Box, but really cool plugin. I suggest you guys demo it out. So that's the review of Kelvin by Tone Projects. Let me know what you guys think of the plugin in the comments below. If you need your song mixed or mastered, you can hit me up at mixandmastermysong.com. You can also check out my presets and courses there too. Talk to you soon.